Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today in the Bonsai Zone, I'll be pruning back my giants. I've got several trees that have been growing really tall and wild, and now it's time to bring them back into the plant room, so I'll have to prune them back to size. The Kapoks from my rainforest have grown quite tall. You can see the pot down on the ground there. And then I'll pan up here and way up to the top. So, you know, it's right up to the bottom of my chin here. So that definitely needs pruning. But that is not my tallest trees. The tallest tree I have is in the greenhouse, and that's the other Kapok tree, Kapok. And as you can see, it has grown and reached the top of the greenhouse, which I can't even reach the top of the greenhouse if I stand on the floor and reach up with my arms. So it's quite tall. And I've got to bring it in for the winter into the plant room. And I have to decide how tall to make it. And I've been thinking about this a lot. I do want to grow this as a large bonsai. And it has natural branching up top here that just happened all by itself, and I hate to cut that off, but I think I'm going to have to. I think I'm going to have to cut it off sort of midway between the branching up here and the base of it, which is down on the ground down there. That's my opinion. It does have some new shoots coming out behind here on the trunk. You can see them there. So that might be a nice new leader, or you know, the start of a crown there. I could cut it off just above there and it would still be quite a large bonsai. So I'll get the tree out and make my final decision and then start cutting. There's a look at how high the tree is, way out of my reach to the top. It's a beautiful 23 degrees this afternoon, but this is supposed to be the last warm day. Tomorrow it's supposed to be a high of 9, and the rest of the week is all cool too. So I think this is the last warm day for the trees outside, and the roof from the plant room is almost done, so I may be bringing the trees, all my tropical trees, indoors this weekend. I've been thinking, and I think I will use this side shoot as the new apex, or one of the multi-branches for the canopy, and prune it off just above that. Here's a close-up of that little shoot coming off the trunk, and I'll prune it just above there, and that'll leave me a little bit for dieback, and I should get an explosion of new growth coming all over to form the new canopy. With the tree on the ground, my cut point will be almost waist level, so it's still a tall tree. So here I go. I'm going to come in here and off at the top, like that. So that's about half the height now. The tree is pruned back in height now, and next I want to look at the roots. This tree was a cutting that I gave to Connor several years ago, and then he gave it back to me. And so the last repotting of this tree was done by Connor, and I think it's time now to get it bare rooted and see what's going on with the root system. We do want to get those nice radial fin buttress roots on this tree someday. I've got the tree on the potting bench. All right, here it goes out of the pot for the first time in quite a few years. If it'll come out, I may have to cut some of the roots in the bottom, but it seems to be coming. There it is. Here I go on the roots now, starting at the center and raking out in a radial pattern, preserving all those nice radial roots and removing all the fine crossing roots, which there seems to be a lot of in here, which is, it's good. I'm glad it has a good, healthy root system. I can kind of smell the soil. It smells healthy. It has an outdoors kind of smell to it. And if you have rotted roots or, you know, too much moisture in your root system, it kind of smells stagnant. So you can judge a lot about the health of the root system just by the way it smells. There must be that beneficial fungi that kind of give off a pleasant odor rather than a foul one. Oh, I'm getting into some big roots here. There's a big root right here. It will be important to establish a root plane on this tree. So everything above that plane, all the roots will be removed, and everything below that plane will be removed. So that plane will determine the surface level of the soil in the final planting. I can see one root here that's a little high in the root base and it's sticking out horizontal rather than curving nicely into the soil. So that root may have to be removed. But I'll wait until I can see all the roots clearly before I make my final decisions. There's something in here. I'm not sure what that is. It may even be a pot or something in here. I'm not sure. I've hit some plastic right here. I'm not sure what that is. There's some big roots in here. You can see some coming down here. It comes out horizontally and then goes straight down. Yeah, a lot of the soil in the interior here is very dry. There's a look at the roots up close and you can see, you know, all this dry soil. It's just feels absolutely dry, and I watered it yesterday. I soaked the top of it, but I guess the water wasn't running down to the lower part of the root system. So I definitely learned maybe I've got to soak this several times to get it all watered thoroughly. It's watered nicely up top, so maybe the upper roots used all the moisture and it never got down below this mat of roots. Even though I even had a tray underneath the pot, so any excess water from watering sat in the tray and it just soaked it up, but boy, it feels really dry. Getting a lot of the soil out. So there is a bit of a mat of roots on the bottom here that I will have to, you know, either cut away or comb out. If I can comb it out, I will, but you know, if it's just going to rip anyway, I might as well just cut it away. Yeah, some good solid roots that come down from the top of the root base all the way to the bottom of the pot. So I don't know what's happening. Here's that bit of plastic up here, and I'm not sure what that's all about. If it's was placed under the base of the tree to kind of get a radial root base, which is what I'm thinking. Maybe Connor has done that, or I think that's what's happened. I don't think it's a pot or anything. It's just a piece of plastic underneath the base of the tree. I can see what Connor's done here. He's got a flat plastic disc underneath the base of the tree, and there's a hole in it. So he's run the initial roots down that hole, and the idea is that as the tree grows, it gets larger and larger, and the roots kind of get cut off by this disc at the base of the roots, and it develops radial roots coming off on top of the disc. So you get this nice flat plate of radial roots. So to remove this disc, I have to cut away all these vertical roots, and that'll kind of, I can pull the disc off from the bottom then. So I can see that this disc was stopping the water from flowing underneath the disc. So this whole section underneath the disc was dry. So the water, when I was watering on top, it would flow down the outsides of the pot, but nothing would penetrate the interior. So that's something to keep in mind for future if you want to try this technique, is that, you know, it may dry out the roots on the inside here, which, you know, is okay as long as you have enough radial roots to take over and support the tree. So my next step will be to prune away these roots that are going straight down from the center hole of the disc, and then I can pull the disc out. If you want to try this technique, I've seen people use old CDs or DVDs, and they'll feed the roots through the center hole, plant the tree in the ground, and then the new radial roots will grow over the top of the CD and into the ground, and you'll get that nice flat radial root base. You can't leave it in there too long because you've still got to balance your roots. You don't want one root growing really thick and the others staying really fine. So, you know, it's a technique, but it's not the technique. Regular pruning is always a must as you're developing your roots. So I'm cutting away all these central roots that are growing through the hole in the bottom of this plate. Maybe you can see it a bit more now. And I'm just pruning them off flush with the plastic disc. There you can see I've got all the central roots removed. So I will try and remove the disc now by pulling it down. It's really fused in there. I may have to nibble away with the pruners to get more of those central roots out of there. All right, here I go. I'll just cut away with the knob cutters. I think these roots have kind of grown around that hole in the bottom of the disc here, and it's just locked in place. So I've got to cut them away until I can pull that disc out the bottom. Just trying to see if I can pull it off now. It's coming now. Yeah, those roots have really grown around that center hole. I'm kind of glad it's not a DVD. That would be even harder to remove. I'll try cutting through the disc here. It looks like it was the bottom of a nursery pot. There it goes. I've got it off. Yeah, you can see how the roots have grown around that hole. So I'll finish getting them flush in the bottom. I've kind of got it this far, so I might as well keep going and make as nice a cut as I can on the bottom of the tree here. And I think that's about it. That's nice and flush on the bottom. Right there. The next step will be to flatten the root base on the bottom and equalize the root base. You can see there's one really large root running down here, and all the rest of them are finer. So I've got to hard prune that root back and allow the other ones to grow to catch up, so they're all basically an equal thickness all the way around the radial root base. So I'll begin by cutting that root off in a flat plane right to here. And this is just a rough cut for now. I may go back and prune it back further. I'm just going to get the tree so it sits flat on the table here. Pruning away some of these roots hanging down. There's another one here, like that. And that's got most of the major roots. The rest are quite fine. I think I'll clear off all this soil, wash the root base, and then we'll come back and do a detailed root pruning. I'm giving the roots a wash now. It's like a washing machine. There we go. Okay, let's get the tree back on the bench. There's a look at the washed roots, sitting nice and flat on the table. So now I've got to balance the root system. So you can see the largest root coming off here that's got to be cut back quite a bit. It does have a nice curve going from the trunk into the root here, which is nice. So I don't want to remove it completely, but I want to shorten it. So here I go with the shortening, and I'll come in kind of parallel to the ground here and slice through it like that. And I've got to reach in deeper. There we go, right down to the core. trying to get all of the root off. There we go. So quite a cut, but I'm leaving part of the root that'll develop more fine roots coming off it, and I'll keep that nice flare from this root going up the trunk line. The next root I'll be cutting off is this one right here. It's a little high in the root plane. If it was kind of tapering down into the soil, it would be all right, but it's going perfectly horizontal, so I'll have to remove it and replace it with a better root down lower. So here I go. That's gone. I'm just going to do a little combing out of the soil down here so I can see exactly what's going on. The rest is all looking quite good. There's a root here that's going a funny direction and it's a little high. It doesn't flow nicely into the soil, so I'll remove that one like that. Quite a bit of soil in here. I may have to give it another wash and just kind of give a good clean out right to the base of all these roots now that I can kind of see them a little better to comb them out. Yeah, I'll give that another quick wash and we'll come back. I've re-washed the roots now and I'll continue to go around the root base. There's some roots here. They're not too bad. They're fairly radial, but down below there's some thicker ones. And the one is crossing over top of another that's down below. And the one that's higher up here kind of scoots off at a funny angle. So I'll keep the one that's radial below and remove the one that's up top here. So I'll come in and try and cut that one away. Like that. I've got a little bit of the root left here. Let's get these other roots out of the way. And I think that's got that. I'm just combing out these roots, making sure they're all going in a good direction. And there's that big thick one that hopefully someday, I'll get more roots around here and I can maybe even reduce it. There's one here that's coming off at a funny angle, so I'll remove that one. And this one also is kind of coming off at a funny angle, so I'll remove that one too. And maybe something better will grow in a nice radial pattern. There's a couple of crossing roots here that don't look very good. Get rid of those. Maybe some of these ones at the base here, they're kind of growing. The root comes out and these are growing 90 degrees to it, which doesn't look good. You want all your roots to flow like melted wax. Nice and smooth and flowing. And a few roots that were wrapped around the trunk here. I can reposition those in a better direction. There's a root on the bottom here that cuts right across all the other roots. That just has to be removed. It's no good. Like that. I think I'll remove this one too. It's a little high and kind of sticking up out of the root plane. Some of these are, I think this one's got to go. It's sticking up out of the root plane again. There's one here that kind of cuts across and almost wraps around the tree. And I don't know, I think it would be very difficult to redirect it, but maybe not impossible. I'll try. When I'm planting it, I'll try and redirect this into a radial pattern. And I think that's about all I can do for now to the root base. I'll give it just a prune around the edges to kind of balance the vigor. Just pruning off the extra long roots. And that looks like about it. That's the root base for 2019. Yeah, it's got a long way to go before it'll be those nice buttress fin roots, but it's a good start. It's a good start to it. So now I've got to pick a pot that I'm going to put it in and plant the tree. The pot I'll be using today is this plastic Japanese training pot, and I think it'll fit the tree quite nicely. It gives the roots lots of room to grow. It's not too big, it's not too small. So I'll have to pick a front for the tree, and I don't know, maybe somewhere around here. It's kind of got a nice flare at the base of the tree, so I'll cut my screen to fit the bottom of the pot now. There. Now let's see how that fits. Beautiful. All right, I'll get a base layer of soil in here and then plant the tree. I'll add my base layer of soil now, and this soil is just turfus and perlite mixed 50-50. And it is sifted to remove all the dust and fine particles. I'm going to plant the tree in the pot now. So I think this was about the front here, and I'll plant it slightly offset, maybe a bit this direction. So I'll place all the roots in a nice radial pattern, and I'll have to check the height of the tree. That actually looks pretty good in the soil. So I'll just make sure all the roots are in a nice radial pattern, getting those ones kind of corrected that I wanted to straighten out. That's looking quite good there. And now I'll fill it in with soil. All right, here I go with the soil now. And I'll just lift the tree up slightly more and work that soil in. That'll just kind of get those roots, you know, tapering down into the soil nicely. Okay, that's working well. And I'll get some more soil in the pot now. The tree stays upright by itself now. And I'll just level the soil out a bit. That's looking quite good there. So the tree looks nice and vertical. Just make sure I've got all the air pockets out. I think this will be a really good sized pot for this tree. It'll you know, fill up with roots and look really good. They'll stay nice and flat. It's not too deep, not too shallow. It's just the perfect pot, I think. Here's a look at the tree in the pot, and as you can see, it's still quite a tall tree. It'll be exciting to see how it branches out over the winter and how the root system develops in the future. Here I go with the water now. So I'll place this tree in the greenhouse overnight, and then it's supposed to get quite cold tomorrow, so I will bring it into the plant room then. I'll place some rocks on top of the soil just to hold the tree in the pot because it is quite top heavy, and I don't want it tipping over while I'm moving it and that. This may be the last warm day of the year where you can wear a t-shirt outside, I don't know, but it's going to get cold, so I'm going to be moving all my trees into the plant room this weekend, and I think that'll be it for the winter. They'll stay there. All right, I'll place the stones on the surface of the soil now. So I've got 3 stones. I'll put 2 there and 1 over here. That just holds the tree nice and stable. Can't tip over or anything. And once the roots start growing in this pot, I can take them away. Okay, into the greenhouse it goes. There's a shot of the tree safely on the floor of the greenhouse for tonight. The next giant that I'll be reducing in height is my Ficus benjamina. It's a medium leaf benjamina ficus, and it's just been growing a little larger every year, and now it's way too tall.